Today, we're digging into a story that has everything: a workplace affair, a wild incident at a luxury resort, and a massive lawsuit that followed. But this isn't really about the drama. It's about why a staggering R45 million claim was basically dead on arrival.
So let's just start with the number at the heart of this whole thing: 45 million rand. That is the huge amount of money a former employee was demanding from his old employer and two other companies. A figure like that makes you stop and ask, what on earth could have happened to justify that?
Well, the backstory is pretty messy. It involves an office affair that wasn't so secret, a chaotic incident at Sun City that got caught on camera, and the fallout that followed. But the real story, the one we're unpacking, isn't just the drama. It's about the massive legal battle that followed and why it went absolutely nowhere. And here's the kicker. This R45 million claim, it never even got to a full trial. There are no witnesses, no cross-examinations, nothing like that. The judge just threw the whole thing out right at the start. And that changes the question for us, right? It's not so much what happened, but how a case this big gets shut down before it even begins.
The reason this all happens so quickly comes down to a really specific legal move called an exception. You can think of it as a kind of legal shortcut that defendants can use to challenge the very foundation of a lawsuit. So what exactly is an exception? Okay, imagine the defendants walking into court and saying, "Look, Your Honor, let's just pretend for a minute that every single thing the plaintiff says is 100% true. Even if it is, he still doesn't have a legal case." It's a really powerful tool designed to filter out legally weak claims from the get-go.
Now, the court doesn't take this lightly. The bar is set really high for the defendant. They have to prove that even if you look at the plaintiff's story from the most favorable angle possible, there's just no legal claim there. It's not about finding little mistakes, it's about showing the entire foundation of the case is just fundamentally flawed. All right, so let's see how this actually worked in practice. We'll start with the first defendant, Nedbank, the plaintiff's former employer. Their entire defense came down to one single, very important document.
So here's the quick version of events, taken straight from the plaintiff's own court filings. An affair with a coworker became pretty much common knowledge. Then, during a Nedbank event at Sun City, there was an incident. Arguments, property damage, the whole thing caught on camera. And because of this, he was facing disciplinary action, but instead, he chose to sign what's called a mutual separation agreement, or MSA, and just leave the company.
Nedbank's argument was just incredibly simple. They basically said, "We've already dealt with this. That MSA he signed was a full and final settlement of any and all disputes between us." From their point of view, the case was already closed. A deal was a deal.
And the court agreed, pointing to this really powerful statement from the Constitutional Court itself. The legal system places huge importance on upholding these kinds of settlement agreements. Basically, if you seriously and willingly sign a deal to end a fight, the courts aren't just going to let you back out of it later because you changed your mind.
This led to a huge fatal contradiction in the plaintiff's own case. On one hand, he argued that the separation agreement was invalid because he was pressured into signing it. But on the other hand, he was also suing Nedbank for breaching that very same agreement. The court said, you can't have it both ways. It found the claim was vague and embarrassing because, legally speaking, you can't argue that a contract is both invalid and that it's been broken. So the case against Nedbank was on really shaky ground. But what about the other two defendants? What about his former partner and Sun City?
Well, the claim against his coworker, Ngcwabe, got thrown out for a really simple reason. This was all happening in the labor court, which, as the name suggests, mainly deals with issues related to employment. Since there was no employment relationship between the plaintiff and his colleague, they were peers, not boss and employee, the court just didn't have the authority or jurisdiction to hear the case against her. Simple as that. In the case against Sun City, the judge really didn't hold back, calling the legal case presented against them unfathomable. Now, for a judge to use a word like that is incredibly strong language, and it tells you just how weak the court thought the argument was. To understand why it was so unfathomable, you just have to look at the basics. If you want to sue someone for a civil wrong, or what lawyers call idyllic, you have to clearly show these 5 things. You have to spell out the conduct, why it was wrongful, who was at fault, how it caused the problem, and what the damage was. The court found that the case against Sun City just failed to connect those basic dots. It was like trying to build a house with no foundation. And so, we come to the final word from the court. The decision was swift, it was decisive, and it brought the entire lawsuit to a screeching halt.
The judge even had some really sharp words for the legal paperwork itself.
See, court rules demand that filings are clear and to the point. This one, the judge said, was the complete opposite, the antithesis of the rules. He said it was so confusingly written that it was impossible to discern what the actual legal claim was. That is a truly devastating critique.
So here's the final scorecard. It was a clean sweep for the defendants. Not only did the R45 million claim completely disappear, but the plaintiff was ordered to pay the legal bills for all three of them. And look closely at the order for LUNTU Ngcwabe. It says punitive costs. That's the court sending a very strong message. It's an extra financial penalty for bringing a case that the court felt was so weak it should never have been brought against her in the first place.
Ultimately, this whole R45 million saga really boils down to one critical lesson. It serves as a stark reminder from the courts that when you sign a document that says full and final settlement, those words mean something. They have real power, and the legal system fully expects you to honor that kind of deal.